Have you ever wondered what lies behind the cold stone walls of ancient castles? Not just history, but blood, tears, and restless souls trapped for centuries. From whispers in the dead of night to sealed rooms no one dares to open, these chilling mysteries are waiting to be unearthed. Do you have the courage to uncover the secrets of cursed castles? This isn't legend. It's truth long buried in silence. Subscribe now to join us as we step into the darkness of the past. A beautiful countess, a haunted castle, and hundreds of vanished girls, all in the name of eternal youth. On moonlit nights, a pale figure still calls out for the lost souls. This is a true story, buried in blood and power. Are you ready to enter the castle of death? The Cachtice Castle and the bloody Countess Elizabeth Bathory, Slovakia, late 16th, early 17th century. What you're about to hear is not folklore or fiction. The story of Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess of Cachtice Castle, is a real historical case, documented in official legal records, eyewitness testimonies, and investigative archives. From the Hungarian royal court in the early 17th century, trial documents are preserved in the National Archives of Hungary and Slovakia, with hundreds of statements from witnesses, servants, clergy members, and royal officials. Modern historians such as Dr. Irma Sudecki-Kardos, Raymond T. McNally, and Tony Thorne have studied the case extensively and confirmed that most of the details are factual, though many remain controversial. The ruins of Cachtice Castle still stand in Slovakia today, and the records of hundreds of young women vanishing under mysterious circumstances continue to haunt Europe's darkest chapters. This tale has become a symbol of terror in European history, where cruelty wore a noble face, and the truth, even centuries later, still hides in the shadows. Elizabeth Bathory was born in 1560 into a prestigious Hungarian noble family, related to kings and rulers. She was betrothed to Count Ferenc Nadasdy from an early age and was known for her intelligence, fluency in multiple languages, and, according to some, early signs of psychological instability. Certain accounts suggest that as a child, she witnessed brutal punishments inflicted on peasants and displayed a disturbing fascination with pain. After her husband's death in 1604, Elizabeth held full control over the remote Cachtice estate, a secluded domain where no one dared to enter uninvited. She began recruiting young village girls, promising training, education, or servant work, but most of them never returned. By 1609, the Bishop of Trenčín began receiving anonymous letters from desperate peasant families, reporting that their daughters had vanished after being sent to serve at Cachtice Castle. Whispers of evil began spreading, but Elizabeth's noble status kept her protected, until a young priest named János decided to investigate. Sneaking through the surrounding forests, he claimed to have heard desperate crying from beneath the castle. János managed to escape and reported what he had seen to the bishop. His testimony was eventually brought before King Matthias II of Hungary. On a freezing night in December 1610, Governor Georgi Thurzo, a longtime acquaintance of Elizabeth, was secretly dispatched to investigate. He led a group of soldiers and raided the castle under cover of darkness, without warning. What they found was more horrifying than any battlefield in the dungeon. They discovered young girls chained to the walls, flayed, with tendons severed, or already dead. Some survivors were barely breathing, mentally shattered, unable to speak. Records mention a notebook listing nearly 650 victims, supposedly written by Elizabeth herself. Though this book has never been officially recovered, many believe it once existed. Elizabeth's closest servants were arrested immediately. Under torture and interrogation, they confessed. Elizabeth routinely beat, burned, and drove needles under her victims' fingernails on occasion. She forced girls to eat each other's flesh as a test of loyalty. She drank and bathed in their blood, believing it preserved her flawless complexion 80 times. As blood flowed across the floor, she rolled in it and laughed maniacally. These testimonies, while chilling, are difficult to fully verify, since they were extracted under extreme duress. Some historians later suggested these accounts might have been exaggerated or politically motivated. On January 7, 1611, a special tribunal was convened. Elizabeth's servants were either executed or sentenced to life in prison, but Elizabeth herself was never formally tried in court. Why? Because of her high noble status. The court feared that executing a noblewoman might spark rebellion among powerful families. Instead, she was sentenced to lifetime confinement, bricked into a sealed chamber of her castle, with only a small slit for food to pass through. She died 4 years later. In 1614, her burial site remains unknown, unrecorded in any official archive. Even now, historians continue to debate the truth of this case. Was Elizabeth Bathory truly a bloodthirsty monster, or a victim of a calculated plot to steal her lands and fortune? Some evidence suggests many testimonies were obtained through coercion. The victims may have died of disease or accidents, common in that era. And the infamous blood-bathing tale may have been a myth fabricated later to enhance the horror. Still, the ruins of Cachtice Castle remain, and locals claim that, on full moon nights, they've seen the silhouette of a woman with pale white skin and red hair, calling out to the missing girls who never came home. Elizabeth Bathory has become a dark icon in European folklore, often cited as the inspiration for vampire legends, including the infamous Dracula. She remains a figure suspended between history, myth, psychosis, and politics, where no definitive conclusion can ever be reached that in the end, her story is more than a murder case. It is a cautionary tale when absolute power is granted to the wrong mind. Even a magnificent castle can become a gateway to hell. A wealthy woman found brutally murdered in a sealed cellar. Her killer's name written in blood with a spelling mistake. The door was locked from the inside. No one could enter or leave. A suspect was convicted, but the evidence didn't add up. Was justice served, or was it one of France's biggest legal blunders? The Bloody Villa, the Ghislaine Marchal case, France, 1991. The murder of Ghislaine Marchal occurred on June 23, 1991, at La Chamade, her private villa located in Mougins, a wealthy town in the south of France. The victim was a 65-year-old widow living alone in a lavish residence. 2 days after she went missing, her body was discovered in the villa's basement, behind a door barricaded from the inside with a heavy iron bar, and next to bizarre messages written in blood on the walls. The case shocked the nation with its brutality, mystery, and the eerie, seemingly incriminating blood-written message that contradicted logic. A Moroccan gardener named Omar Raddad was soon arrested and convicted, despite a lack of direct evidence and no eyewitnesses. Even now, more than 30 years later, the Ghislaine Marchal case remains one of the most controversial criminal mysteries in modern French history, with unanswered questions, disputed facts, and growing suspicion that the wrong man may have paid the price. Ghislaine Marchal was the widow of a prominent French industrialist. After her husband's death, she chose a quiet life alone in her luxury villa, La Chamade, surrounded by high walls, automatic iron gates, and manicured gardens. She maintained an elegant lifestyle, attending social lunches, playing cards in can, and keeping her affairs discreet. Her gardener came regularly, exchanged brief words, and left. She was known to be sharp, intelligent, and meticulous. That on June 23, 1991, Ghislaine missed a scheduled lunch with close friends, something she had never done. After 48 hours without any contact, her friends contacted the police. On June 25th, police broke into the villa and discovered Ghislaine's body in the wine cellar, a small, windowless room in the basement. The steel door had been locked from the inside with a heavy iron bar, making outside access nearly impossible. She was found lying face down, with signs of blunt trauma to the head and multiple stab wounds in the back. Blood was smeared across the walls, forming two chilling phrases in shaky handwriting. Omar Matur. Omar killed me. Grammatically incorrect. Omar Matu. Correct spelling, added later. The writing appeared desperate, as if from someone in agony. But one detail stood out. Ghislaine Marchal was known for her excellent spelling and grammar. Why would she make such a basic error in her final message? Omar Raddad, the gardener, was a 29-year-old Moroccan with no criminal record. He had worked for Ghislaine for years. At the time of the murder, he claimed to be visiting family over 200 kilometers away, a claim lacking firm alibi witnesses. However, investigators quickly zeroed in on him. No known enemies of the victim. The message in blood named him directly. A metal bar was found near the body, suspected to be the weapon. Omar had reportedly borrowed money from her and may have had a dispute that he was arrested. But from the start, the case was built on circumstantial evidence and shaky logic. In January 1994, Omar was convicted of murder and sentenced to 18 years in prison. The trial divided the French public into two fierce camps. Prosecution supporters believed Omar was the only possible suspect. The message named him, and no one else had motive or access. Dissenters pointed to major inconsistencies. No fingerprints or DNA from Omar at the scene. The message was written with the left hand, but Ghislaine was right-handed and blood trails leading outside the room. Door was barred from inside. How could Omar have left? Many felt the trial was biased by racial prejudice, media pressure, and the desire for a swift resolution. After serving over 7 years, Omar received a presidential pardon from Jacques Chirac in 1996. But crucially, the pardon did not clear his name that he was still legally considered a murderer, a man pardoned, not exonerated. For more than 2 decades, his legal team, supported by journalists and scientists, fought to reopen the case. In 2015, a breakthrough came. New DNA testing on the blood-written message revealed unknown male DNA, not matching Omar. That in late 2021, French prosecutors formally reopened the case, recognizing the need for re-examination. Independent forensic experts proposed a shocking new theory. Someone else was inside the villa that day. The first message was riddled with grammatical errors, strange for Ghislaine. Smudges and faint wipes in the cellar hinted at staged cleanup. The nature of the injuries and object placements suggested possible staging or coercion. Point 1 hypothesis. Ghislaine was forced to write the message while injured, then killed. The killer may have rigged the door shut from inside using thin wire, escaping through a secondary ventilation shaft or window overlooked by police. None of this was thoroughly examined during the original investigation. As of today, the Ghislaine Marchal case remains unsolved in the eyes of many. Omar Raddad, the man whose name was written in blood, still lives under the shadow of a murder conviction. His lawyers continue to submit new motions for DNA reanalysis, crime scene reconstruction using 3D modeling, and reviews of overlooked fingerprints and evidence. LH Ahmad Villa has long since changed owners. Yet locals still call it the house written in blood, a place where silence, bias, and flawed justice may have condemned the wrong man or allowed a killer to walk free. Was there someone else in the villa that day, missed by investigators? Why would a literate woman like Ghislaine write such a blatant grammatical error? If Omar was innocent, why was his name scrawled on the wall in blood? Could this be one of the worst miscarriages of justice in French legal history? And one day, will the restless spirit of Ghislaine Marchal finally be able to rest, once the truth comes to light? A priest was stabbed by his own brother at the altar during Mass. Blood soaked the sacred cloth. The prayer was never finished. Since then, Leap Castle became less of a sanctuary and more of a prison for spirits. Over 150 skeletons found beneath the chapel, and the murdered priest's soul was never forgiven. The Bloody Castle, the Leap Castle Murders, Ireland, 15th to 17th century. Leap Castle stands in County Offaly, Central Ireland. Built around 1250 and passed through many hands, it is famously known as the most haunted castle in Ireland, steeped in blood, betrayal, and ancient crimes. Between the 15th and 17th centuries, it was the center of violent power struggles within the O'Carroll family, a powerful clan feared for its brutality. Inside the castle is a specially constructed chapel, the site of one of the most chilling murders in Irish folklore, a priest killed by his own brother during a sacred mass. While the exact date remains unclear, archaeological evidence, and local records confirm that a priest was indeed murdered on the altar by his kin during a church service in what is now known as the Bloody Chapel. Leap Castle was built not just as a fortress, but as a symbol of the O'Carroll family's dominance, a clan that ruled with iron and blood through the 15th century. Every wall is said to whisper secrets of betrayal and fratricide. The tale begins after the death of Lord Mulroney O'Carroll. A bloody power struggle ignited among his sons. One of them chose the path of faith, becoming a priest to preserve the family's spiritual lineage. But holiness could not withstand ambition, and so blood was spilled at the altar of God. According to local accounts, one quiet morning, the priest, the elder brother, was leading Mass in the upper chapel. As he turned his back to the congregation, the chapel doors opened and his younger brother entered with a gleaming curved blade. Without a word, the brother rushed forward and drove the blade into the priest's back, sending him crashing onto the altar, blood soaking the white linen cloth. It happened so fast that worshippers froze in shock. The killer fled. The elder died instantly, and the sacred rite was left forever unfinished. After the murder, the chapel was abandoned and sealed. Wind whispered through the narrow windows, echoing unfinished prayers. Locals began to call it the Bloody Chapel, and from then on, Leap Castle earned its reputation for unexplained phenomena. Witnesses reported hearing footsteps at night, groans, and scratching on the chapel door. Some saw a white-robed figure of a priest near the altar, bowing his head as if still reciting prayers for the dead. Visitors often described sudden drops in temperature or an invisible weight choking them upon entering. The room was no longer holy. It had become a prison for a tormented soul. Years later, another horror was discovered behind the altar, a hidden oubliette, a narrow death pit. At the bottom were dozens of human bones. This oubliette was a small shaft where victims were thrown and left to die. The base was lined with iron spikes. During renovations in the 20th century, workers found over 150 human skeletons inside, and no one knows who they were or why they were killed. But one thing is certain, Leap Castle didn't just witness violence, it fed on it for centuries. The younger brother killed the priest to seize control of the family, but he never gained the throne. He disappeared during a rebellion soon after. Some say his mind unraveled, haunted by his brother's spirit, and he died starving in a locked room beneath the chapel. From that point on, the O'Carroll family declined. The castle changed hands, but every new owner suffered mysterious illness, madness, or untimely death. Was the castle truly cursed, or had one act of sacrilege unleashed centuries of darkness? Even into the 20th century, residents of Leap Castle continued to report chilling encounters. A woman saw a bloodstained priest with hollow eyes standing at the end of the hall, and an archaeologist claimed to hear a whisper by his ear, "I am not yet forgiven." Cameras stopped working inside the chapel, their batteries drained within minutes. Occasionally, fresh streaks of blood appeared on the chapel wall, only to vanish the next day. It seems that the priest's spirit still lingers, trapped in the very place he once called sacred, waiting for a redemption that never came. The chapel isn't the only haunted place. Within Leap Castle dwell stranger things. A monstrous figure known as the Elemental, vaguely human-shaped, smelling of rotting flesh, appearing when the castle is disrespected at a girl seen jumping from a high window, only to vanish before hitting the ground at a faceless child roaming the halls at night, softly whispering the names of visitors. These may be victims. They may be monsters. Or perhaps they are echoes of a deeper force fed by centuries of blood and betrayal. Was the priest forced into death by something beyond ambition, a darker force within the castle? If sacred ground can be stained, is there still a place for the soul to rest? How many victims were thrown into the oubliette? And what sins did they commit? Is Leap Castle truly cursed, or have men turned it into a nest of evil with their own hands? And when, if ever, will the final prayer be spoken to release the blood-soaked stones of Leap from there? Eternal silence? Do you believe in ghosts? Would you dare spend a night where traitors were locked for 800 years? Dragsholm Castle, one of the most haunted places in Europe, home to hundreds of trapped souls. From the white lady in the wall to screams echoing in the dark, are you ready to face the past rising again? Dragsholm Castle, Imprisonment and Awakening, Denmark. Dragsholm Castle, Dragsholm Slot, located in the Sealand region of southwestern Denmark, has a history spanning over 800 years. Originally built as a fortress in the 13th century, Dragsholm was once home to Catholic bishops before being seized and repurposed during the Protestant Reformation. It later became a prison for nobles and clergy who defied royal authority. Over the centuries, the castle bore witness to countless brutal imprisonments, tortures shrouded in darkness, and deaths that were never explained. Today, Dragsholm has been transformed into a luxurious hotel, but the supernatural phenomena have never faded. Many visitors report seeing white apparitions, hearing screams echoing from the basement, and feeling the presence of trapped souls unable to find peace. In the 16th and 17th centuries, Dragsholm served as a prison for nobility and dangerous political figures. The damp, narrow, pitch-dark stone dungeons held notorious individuals like the Earl of Bothwell, the third husband of Mary, Queen of Scots. He was chained to the wall for 5 years, unable to stand or sit, only able to crawl in agony. It is said that every midnight, the guards would hear chains dragging, mumbling in an ancient language, and dry sobs echoing from the stone walls. One night, a young guard fled after seeing a legless figure floating through the narrow corridor, its soulless eyes fixed on the iron gate. The most famous legend at Dragsholm is the tale of the White Lady, the daughter of a local nobleman. She fell in love with a servant, and when her father found out, he had her bricked alive inside the wall to conceal the family's shame. More than 300 years later, during a renovation, workers discovered a female skeleton in a white dress sealed inside the wall, confirming the legend. Since then, people often see a woman in a white gown gliding silently through the halls at night, headless, soundless, yet accompanied by the faint scent of jasmine that a guest once reported seeing a white figure sitting by the window in his room. At midnight, thinking it was his roommate, he turned on the light, but no one was there. On the frosted glass, a faint, delicate handprint remained, like that of a young woman. Earl Bothwell, a political traitor, was imprisoned at Dragsholm in 1573. For 5 years, he was confined to a windowless stone cell, his limbs chained to the wall. Every night, people heard his screams, singing Scottish ballads in madness. Legend says that on the full moon of each month, the night guard hears his cries rising from the floor beneath, even though the cell has been sealed. Once, a recorder left in the old dungeon captured a blood-curdling scream before burning out inexplicably. Many guests staying at Dragsholm Hotel describe eerie experiences. Lights turning off automatically as they enter rooms, doors opening and closing without wind. Some even saw an abnormally tall figure at the foot of the bed, its neck twisted. Unnaturally, unlike any human. One housekeeper recalled hearing a lullaby while cleaning a room, though no one was inside. Turning toward the mirror, she saw a shadowy figure standing directly behind her, unmoving, just staring. Several paranormal investigators visited Dragsholm to document supernatural events. Many digital cameras had their data erased shortly after leaving the basement. One surviving video revealed a shadowy, human-like figure standing right behind the cameraman, even though he was completely alone at the time. Another film crew brought electromagnetic sensors to the dungeon. The readings spiked erratically near the old cells, then the entire system shut down. Later, one camera captured a deep sigh in complete silence. Some guests reported temporary memory loss after leaving Dragsholm, forgetting where they had been for several hours. One Australian woman wrote to the hotel, saying she saw herself in the bathroom mirror, but her reflection didn't mimic her movements. Another guest woke up in the middle of the night, finding himself standing alone in a dark corridor, unable to recall leaving his room or how long he had been there. The sensation of being possessed by another memory, one not their own, is a common experience among those staying in the old interrogation wing. An underground water vein was discovered beneath the castle's foundations, a stream that never dries, even during drought. Some believe it is a spirit channel, anchoring memories and lingering resentment to the castle someone once brought. A compass into the basement, the needle spun wildly. One night, a guest took a photo in the dungeon and later discovered dozens of glowing dots resembling eyes staring into the lens. But upon checking the location, nothing was there. Are the souls trapped in the dungeon trying to send a message? Could a true energy conduit connect Dragsholm to another realm? Who truly was the woman in the wall? And has she ever found peace? How many other ghosts remain unrecorded within the castle walls? And if you were to sleep at Dragsholm one night, would you awaken within the dream of another lost soul? Do you believe over 100 people were burned alive for being witches? Moosham Castle is more than a medieval ruin. It's a prison for suffering, injustice, and restless spirits. Whispers still echo from its stone dungeon every night. This story will make you think twice before turning off the lights. Moosham Castle, witch trials and whispers from the stone dungeons. Moosham Castle, Schloss Moosham, located in the Lungau region of Salzburg, Austria, is one of the best preserved medieval fortresses in Europe. Yet behind its moss-covered stone walls and elegant watchtowers lies a bloody chapter of human history. The Salzburg witch trials from 1675 to 1690 official records document at least 139 people accused of witchcraft during this period. Trials were held in the castle's Grand Hall, while torture and executions occurred deep in the cold stone dungeons. Most victims were widows, poor villagers, or folk healers. Many perished in agony without fair trial or justice. Historical archives from Salzburg still hold torture transcripts, forced confessions, and execution lists. Today, Moosham Castle is open to visitors, but many claim to have experienced strange phenomena in the stone vaults. Whispers, chains dragging, and cold hands, brushing past in the dark. Moosham Castle was constructed in the 12th century, originally owned by the Counts of Lungau, and served as a border fortress for the Salzburg Archbishopric. Architecturally, it combines Romanesque and Gothic styles, with narrow corridors, spiral staircases, and hidden passageways. The layout is maze-like, evoking a sense of being lost, and not just in the physical sense. Its remote location, surrounded by forests and mountains, made Moosham an ideal prison. The lowest dungeon, completely devoid of natural light, was nicknamed the Pit of No Return. Bloodstains and ancient shackles still mark the stone floors there. Folklore suggests that the land around Moosham was cursed long before the fortress was built. Local legends tell of a white witch and talking animals lurking in the surrounding woods as early as the 10th century. In the late 17th century, the Lungau and Salzburg regions were struck by successive disasters: crop failures, unseasonal frosts, plagues, and mysterious cattle deaths. Fear turned into desperation, and desperation turned to blame. Those who lived differently were targeted: solitary women, herbalists, forest dwellers, and the physically deformed. Under the influence of the Catholic Church, witch trials exploded at Moosham Castle from 1675. Over 139 people were accused. Among them were children and the disabled. Holy interrogation methods included hanging victims upside down and lashing them with spiked whips, forcing ingestion of holy water until suffocation, the water test, throwing victims into rivers to test purity, driving nails through palms to expel evil spirits. Many died during interrogation. Others were burned alive in the castle courtyard. One woman, Greta Lerm, was reportedly buried alive for conversing with wolves. Today, Moosham Castle is a popular destination for dark tourism, but several visitors have left early due to unexplained dread. The dungeon, preserved with original shackles, stone beds, torture racks, and dry wells, remains almost untouched. Some report being short of breath or feeling pressed down in the old trial chambers. Others sense a presence behind them. Photographs have revealed shadowy figures, eyes, or faces that weren't seen at the time of capture that a castle guide once said. Every year on February 14th, the anniversary of the first mass execution, the dungeon lights flicker and the old oak door creaks open by itself. No one dares stay past midnight. A team of paranormal investigators from Vienna camped in the castle in 1997 to film a documentary. When entering the dungeon, they reportedly heard whispering in archaic German, repeating a single phrase, "Ich bin nicht schuldig." I am not guilty. No one else was there. Their EMF devices malfunctioned. Cameras slowed. One audio recording captured a woman screaming and the sound of fire crackling. Audio experts could not explain the distortion that a priest who visited in 2001 refused to descend into the dungeon. He said only, "There is something here that has never been forgiven, and it refuses to be forgotten." According to church records, most victims executed at Moosham were denied final rites. They were branded heretics and denied the chance for absolution. As a result, many local Catholics believe their souls remain earthbound. Each year on the winter solstice, villagers secretly leave flowers and white candles at the base of the castle wall. They avoid public prayers, fearing that it might wake them. But such fear itself is proof. People believe the souls are still there and aware they are being remembered. Do confessions obtained under torture hold any truth? Were the very judges and clergy accusing others of sorcery secretly practicing forbidden rites? If the souls of the wrongfully executed remain, what are they doing in the dark? Seeking forgiveness or searching for a replacement? If you stood in the castle courtyard on a snowy night and heard a faint scream rising from the ground, would you believe someone was once buried alive there? Would you enter the chapel where brother killed brother during Mass? Leap Castle hides ancient dungeons, blood-soaked altars, and spirits that never moved on. On every full moon, whispers echo, and the scent of burning flesh returns. What awaits? Behind the door, ghosts, or something that predates history? This isn't folklore. This is a living curse. The Moonlight Curse. Leap Castle, Ireland, 15th century to present. Leap Castle, located in County Offaly, Ireland, was built around 1250 and is considered one of the most haunted places in all of Europe. Once ruled by the notorious O'Carroll clan, a family known for brutality, betrayal, and political murder, this castle has witnessed bloodshed through centuries of civil war and religious turmoil. Both historical records and Irish folklore document horrific events inside Leap Castle: a brutal fratricide during a mass, assassinations of political rivals, and hidden dungeons filled with skeletal remains. Most chilling of all is a shadowy entity known as the Elemental, an ancient, inhuman spirit said to radiate the stench of decay and bring dread wherever it roams. Dozens of international paranormal teams have investigated Leap Castle, confirming unusual energy fields, unexplained sounds, and strange physical reactions. This is more than just legend. It's a curse whispered beneath the full moon. Leap Castle was built on what was once sacred Celtic land. The O'Carrolls, fierce warlords in medieval Ireland, seized control of the fortress in the 15th century and ruled with an iron fist. They were infamous for poisoning rivals and even murdering each other over succession. Legend tells of one chilling night During a mass held in the chapel, one O'Carroll's son stormed in and drove a sword through his brother, the officiating priest, right at the altar. Blood sprayed the crucifix and stained the holy walls. From that day forward, the room was called the Bloody Chapel. During renovations in the early 20th century, workers discovered a secret oubliette, hidden dungeon, behind the altar in the Bloody Chapel. Beneath it was a narrow stone chute. Prisoners were tossed in, falling onto iron spikes set upright below. Over 150 skeletons were retrieved from the pit, many impaled or crushed. Some died from blood loss, others from starvation or madness. Archaeologists believe this was a private execution chamber used for generations. One laborer who entered the dungeon suffered seizures and claimed he saw a man being dragged by invisible chains, his eyes wide with unspeakable fear. The entity known as the Elemental was first described in 1909 by occultist Mildred Darby. She claimed it was half man, half beast, with withered skin like a mummy and the smell of rotting flesh. Anyone who comes close is overtaken by a primal, soul-crushing fear. In one encounter, Darby was thrown to the floor by an invisible force and woke with burn-like claw marks on her shoulder. Some experts believe the elemental predates the castle itself, a spiritual remnant born from bloodshed, Celtic rituals, and the ancient rage of the land. On nights of the full moon, locals report strange lights flickering from the castle windows, despite it being empty. Some claim to hear chanting, weeping, or screams carried on the wind, along with the sickening scent of burning flesh. A female traveler who spent one night there said, "At 3 a.m., I woke to someone whispering in a language I didn't understand. The room was ice cold. I couldn't move. In the corner stood a priest, soaked in blood, silently staring at me. The curse appears to stem from the fratricide in the chapel and the countless souls buried beneath the stones, never laid to rest, never forgiven." Today, Leap Castle welcomes visitors, but few last an entire night. Some report recurring nightmares of being trapped in the dungeon, with black hands gripping their throats from the shadows. Electronic devices fail without warning. Paranormal. Teams record whispers, sobs, and doors slamming shut with no draft. One UK-based crew fled within 2 hours, claiming they felt washed by something that did not want to be seen. What exactly is the elemental? A ghost? A Celtic deity? Or something far older and nameless? Why so many murders within Leap Castle? Was it family greed? Or something darker drawing the blood? Could moonlight truly be a bridge between the living and the damned? And if one full moon night, you stood before the Bloody Chapel and heard faint cries echo from inside, would you dare open the door? Think hell is just a myth? Houska Castle will make you reconsider. A fortress with no entrance, no residence, built to seal a bottomless pit. Screams, shadows, and Nazi dark rituals were just the beginning. This is where the veil between worlds was ripped open. Houska Castle, the gateway to hell in the heart of Bohemia. Houska Castle lies in the middle of the remote Hajek forest in the Czech Republic, in the ancient region of Bohemia. According to archaeological data and historical records, the structure was built around the late 13th century under the reign of King Ottokar II of Bohemia. However, unlike any other medieval castle in Europe, Houska's architecture is utterly bizarre. No moat, no defensive towers, no formal entrance, and, most strangely, most of its windows do not look outside. Modern historians have fiercely debated the true purpose of Houska's construction. One prevailing theory suggests the castle wasn't built to protect people from invaders, but to imprison something beneath the earth. That something, according to centuries-old local legends, is a gateway to hell. Beneath Houska Castle lies a deep, bottomless pit, or at least one so deep, no one has ever measured its end. Ancient records describe how terrified villagers once heard winged, deformed beasts emerging from the earth at night. Screams echoed through the forest, and no birds dared fly over the area. Authorities at the time ordered the construction of Houska Castle directly over the pit, sealing it with thick stone floors and building a chapel directly above. Oddly, the castle had no ground-level entrance. The current doors and stairs were added centuries later. The original structure appeared deliberately designed so no one could enter, and nothing could escape that it served no military purpose, no administrative role, and housed no permanent residence. Houska was essentially a lid covering something darker than medieval minds could grasp. To determine the truth about the pit, the local rulers once ordered condemned prisoners were to be lowered into the hole. They were promised a full pardon if they survived and reported what they saw. The first man was only a few meters down when he began screaming hysterically. Pulled up immediately, he appeared aged by decades, with white hair, bulging eyes, and rambling speech. He had gone insane. The next prisoners fared no better. Some begged for execution instead, others bit off their own tongues. Finally, the pit was completely sealed, and no one dared mention it again, until centuries later. During World War II, Nazi forces occupied Houska Castle and transformed it into a hub for occult research. Surviving documents suggest they believed the castle sat atop a spiritual junction point that could be harnessed to access supernatural energy, open portals to other worlds, or even contact dark entities. SS leader Heinrich Himmler, obsessed with mysticism, personally ordered the relocation of ritual objects, experimental tools, and arcane books into the castle's underground chambers. So-called Aryan rebirth rituals were performed using human blood, ancient sigils, and summoning circles, all of which were found after the war. When German troops retreated, locals discovered horrifying remnants in the basement, dissected animal remains, blood-soaked SS insignia, and walls covered in runic symbols and pentagrams. Above the sealed pit stands a centuries-old chapel that still exists today. Many visitors have collapsed or fainted here, claiming they felt watched by something beneath the floor. Witnesses have reported seeing transparent, headless figures, or shadowy creatures crawling on all fours in the corners. Hidden cameras have recorded strange nighttime sounds, whispers in ancient tongues, footsteps when no one is present, and heavy knocks from beneath the stone tiles. Paranormal investigators have confirmed abnormal electromagnetic spikes in the chapel, with no scientific explanation to justify them. Multiple teams who camped overnight inside Houska reported the same thing: time distortion. Watches stopped. Cameras glitched. Some even claimed to see themselves standing at a distance, watching, before being snapped back to the present. During one recorded session, a German journalist screamed in the night and began smashing his head against a wall. The only thing recorded on tape was heavy breathing, followed by one chilling sentence: "It's crawling up from beneath." He was later institutionalized. Others who visited report lingering trauma. They dream of the chapel. They hear shrieks in their sleep, and many swear that part of their soul never made it out of the pit. Why was Houska built in such a remote, unstrategic, uninhabited location? Does the pit beneath the chapel truly exist, or is it a myth to mask some other purpose? What exactly did the condemned prisoners witness that drove them mad? What did the Nazis discover beneath the stone, and what did they take with them? And tonight, if you pressed your palm to the cold stone floor of Houska's chapel, would you hear something whispering just beneath your skin? Thank you for joining us on this eerie journey into the haunted ancient castles. If you found this video intriguing, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with the next chilling mystery. Leave a comment below, would you dare step into a place cursed for centuries? See you in the next story, where things only get darker and more mysterious. There are still countless secrets waiting to be uncovered.